What's up, everybody? I just got back from seeing the new horror movie Cuckoo, so let's talk about it. First thing I want to talk about with this film and the aspect of it that I love the most is the main character, Gretchen, played by Hunter Schafer, and her character arc and the story that she goes through in this film. It was a lot more emotional and heartfelt than I thought it would be. Basically, without giving any spoilers, the basic plot of this movie is that her character is, moving to another country with her father, her biological father, and her stepmom and stepsister, and she's very reluctant to do so. And so, just the character arc that they go on, she goes on specifically, is what worked most for me in this film. And what worked so well for me is the fact that without going into spoilers, her character is dealing with a decent amount of grief in this film. For something happens in the past, and essentially her character arc is dealing with that past and dealing with what happened in the past to her, and dealing with her grief and trying to move on from it, and accepting the people in her new family, essentially, that she might not have accepted in the past. And I thought the way that that played out in the film, was very effective, and it made me attached to her character and her character arc in the film. So, yeah, that was the aspect of this film that I really enjoyed the most, because it actually pulled at your heartstrings. Anyone who's dealt with grief, it's very relatable in a lot of parts and a lot of scenes. So yeah, I was just on board with her character arc and where it goes. That's really all I can say without giving away any specific details. But yeah, that was the part of this story that I really really enjoyed. The other aspect of this film that I really enjoyed is Dan Stevens' character and the dynamic between his character and Gretchen, Hunter Schafer's character, kind of like the cat and mouse game that they have going on throughout the entire film. Dan Stevens' character is kind of the person who runs the hotel that they're moving to, and throughout the whole thing, you get a weird vibe from him. You get suspicious of him. There's more to what he's leading on and what they're leading on in the movie. So yeah, I just really enjoyed the dynamic between those two characters and their back and forth kind of cat and mouse game that they had going on throughout the entire film. I also really enjoyed how certain moments in the film are very unnerving, and how they use the sound design in the film in order to use actually effective jump scares. There's not too many of them. This movie isn't riddled with jump scares throughout, but when they use it, they use the music and the sound to kind of lead up to the jump scare, so that way when it actually happens, it's very effective. A lot of movies, specifically horror movies nowadays, don't do a good job of that, so it was very refreshing, for the few moments that you do get it in this film, they actually were effective with jump scares. And then the last thing that I want to give this movie credit for is that it is very unexpected, right? A lot of the plot line goes in directions that you aren't expecting. Like in the beginning of the movie, I thought, okay, I kind of figured this out. I know where this is going to end up going. And in certain aspects, I did, but then there were certain details that I didn't expect, right? And so I did appreciate that. Even though not everything worked for me, but I did appreciate the fact that in this movie they were trying to, not be predictable. They were trying to do something different. So I did really appreciate that with this film. But with that being said, this was not my favorite movie that I've seen in recent times, so I kind of want to get to the mixed and negative aspects of the film. And the first thing I want to get to is the fact that this movie is just weird, right? It's just very very weird. Some of the moments, even with like the editing, is just very weird, and the way certain scenes play out was just kind of jarring, and just kind of threw me off, and it was played out very weird and was edited very weird. Yeah, a lot. And sometimes, like, I'm a horror fan. I love horror, and I like weird. I like when movies go weird and do things different. And this movie does that. And for some things, it works, but for a lot of it, it doesn't. Right? And yeah, that for me, that just it turned me off a couple times with just how strange and weird this movie gets, like with the acting, the editing, the way certain scary scenes play out. It was just it was weird. Yeah. And then earlier, I talked about how it was an unexpected movie, right? Certain things happen that I didn't see coming and didn't expect, and then other things I did expect and did predict early on in the film. But to me, those things that were unexpected really didn't work, right? So it's like if you're building up this suspense and this mystery, and we get to a certain point where it does something that you don't really expect, that's great, but it kind of, the reveal of what you're giving out has to work, and it has to be more satisfying than what I was thinking going into it. And once you get the reveal kind of what's really going on, and who are the bad guys at play, it was just disappointing. It just didn't work for me. I'm not gonna say it was like written bad or anything, but just the concept and the execution of the reveals wasn't great to me. It just didn't work for me. I will say though, the one thing you want to do with this film is walk in blind. Don't read spoilers. Don't know really much of anything besides like the basic plot going into this film. Because for some people it's gonna work. It didn't really work for me. But if I would have known, right, the where this movie kind of goes and what it's really all about, I don't think it would have saved the movie for me, but it might have at least it would have let me know what to expect going into the film, and maybe I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. I doubt it, but yeah, wasn't a huge fan of the certain aspects of it that were kind of the mystery portion of it. So yeah, but don't really watch the trailers. Just know the basic concept of what I kind of explained at the beginning of the video, and I think that'll either help or hurt your experience. But see it for yourself to figure it out. So yeah, overall for me, this movie is a movie where it has certain aspects and parts of it that are very strong, and then other parts that just don't really work for me. So I mean, overall, it was probably a more disappointing experience than a negative experience. On a rating scale, I would probably only give it a 3 out of 5. Like I said, and that to me, that's based solely on Gretchen, the main character, her story arc, and Hunter Schafer's performance, and where her character arc goes. But outside of that, I wasn't really a fan of the rest of the story and where the plot takes you and other certain aspects of it, specifically more the horror side of it. And yeah, so 3 out of 5 for me. Didn't hate it, didn't really, and didn't. It wasn't anything to write home about though for me. So yeah, if you guys have seen Cuckoo, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and have a great night, guys.